Hello there, sword friends. This is going to be a quick review of a Skyjiro Taka Chigai. It's the Crossed Feather model from Skyjiro. I'm not going to pretend I know how to say the name, but it's the Crossed Feather model. First, let's start with the good old disclaimers. The thing to note first is that I'm selling this on behalf of a friend, and it's in the midst of being sold right now, so I can't really cut with it. It's not my place to do so, but I will handle it and give you some of my thoughts. Presumably, it will cut as other Skyjiro blades I have reviewed, and I have it, I have confidence that it would do that. So for whatever that's worth, the next bit to know is that my friend did buy it new, so it should be pretty representative of what you would buy new from Skyjiro. It's not quite secondhand exactly, because I didn't buy it from a party that bought it from somebody else. Hopefully you follow the logic there. Next bit is I'm not affiliated with Skyjiro, nobody's asking me to do the review, and also, lastly, I claim no super prize mastery. These are just my thoughts as an enthusiastic sword collector guy, so take them for what it's worth. This time, the first thing I want to do is look at the Skyjiro website and examine what they say you're getting for this sword. Now, this sword retails for $677. That puts it in the same general price category as some of the other kind of upper class or upper end katana. Not super high end, but you got some Hanwei products that are in here from their T10 and pretty close to the folded series. Ronin Elites. You have pieces from the Dynasty Forge Bushi series that are kind of in this ballpark. So there's a lot of competition in this price point. So let's see what you get. So I'm going to go over a couple things. One, they say 2.4 pounds. This is the 28.4 inch blade. So I think I'm talking about the same one. However, it's worth noting that mine is 2.7 ounces, or the one I have in hand. The other thing worth noting, though, is that the handle for the 28.4 inch says that it should be 10.5. Mine is 11.25 inches. I don't see that as exactly, it's kind of between here somewhere, but it says that it probably is supposed to come with a 10.5 inch handle. So I don't know where that happened, because mine would be somewhere in here at 11.25 inches. Anyway, I'm guessing that probably has something to do with the extra bit of weight. 3 ounces is not, a make it or break it, but as I've explained before, 3 ounces is a pretty reasonable amount of steel. For the sake of comparison, this broken bit of sword right here, which is from a longsword test I did some time ago, weighs 3 ounces. So somewhere in there, this is what is hiding as extra weight in the blade from what you would buy. Now, I tend to harp on this a little bit, but weights are, I guess the more you buy katana, the more you get familiar with what type of weight you're familiar or comfortable with moving around. So being off by 3 ounces is a bit of a disappointment, but hopefully the explanation of the handle accounts for this in some partial way. Though that is speculative on my part. It could be balanced in there any number of ways. Continuing on, the Saki-haba, Motokasane, these are reasonably accurate. The Moto-haba, usually I'm used to Moto-haba, I don't know if they're the same, but this is a little thicker than it is. I'm going to basically note some of the additional measurements from the actual as I'll overlay them on the screen here, and I will post the ones from the measurements I have in this blade in the description down below. In terms of the Sori, that was another measurement that was provided here. It's stated as a little bit larger. It's 0.75 inches, and this is 2.2 centimeters, which is 0.86 inches, I think, if memory serves. Anyway, so the measurements are actually reasonably on. In terms of how thick a blade is, or this, that, or the other, I don't know that a whole lot of people care. The trick is that it doesn't provide Motokasane Sakikasane or Moto-haba Saki-haba. I have Saki-haba, but I don't have Sakikasane, and that helps identify how it tapers maybe a little bit better. Suffice to say, though, I will provide what I have down below, and they seemed reasonably close. The next thing to note is Patina sells this for $1 more, which is a pretty rare thing. It looks like Patina has them. It says back ordered. I'm not sure if they're available on Skyjiro's website. I should look. Well, it doesn't let me click buy now, so I don't exactly know if it's available or not. Lastly, we have good old Sauron Armory, and the thing it says here is $5.99, and this is one of the few times that I've seen Sauron Armory pretty drastically beat the price of Patina. Maybe it's due to that back order bit. I'm not sure exactly if this is in stock or not, but I don't see any indication that it's not. Anyway, take a look around. You might be able to find these for even less money, but $5.99 seems like about the best rate I was able to find. Now, just looking at the general shape here, the thing I want to point out is that it has a pretty substantial feeling in the hand for its size, but it's still maneuverable and light at times. It's kind of an interesting shape. I don't know if that has to do with the Sori or why it is, but in some movements I can feel the weight, and in others it feels like a much lighter blade. It kind of wobbles between stout and light, and so it's tough for me to exactly place it. Now, at the base here, it's got a standard length or width blade here, but it narrows down slightly more than average, or at least average for mass production swords. And it almost makes me equate this to, say, the Hanwei Bushido, or, I don't know, this kind of balanced, you could use this for cutting tatami or doing Iai, and it wouldn't necessarily be bad at either. It wouldn't be the lightest, most comfortable blade for Iai, and it's not a competition cutting geometry for, if you're a lawn mowing champion at cutting tatami mats, then it doesn't necessarily have that profile, but it looks like it's going to be comfortable for either one. And the general shaping, it's just a reasonably good looking blade overall. Aesthetically, I have to say I like the theme and how it's all come together. But we'll get to that as we examine. Let's start off with the kashra, as I often do. Or the thing to note first, thematically, it's got a single feather on here rather than a crossed feather. It's about the only spot I see a single feather, other than the Minuki. So there's 3 single feathers on here, and I would point out that the little shitadome or gold spots along the spot where the knot or the ito crosses through are not separate pieces. They look like they are cast on, and typically in a I guess better version of fittings, they would be separate pieces. It's not necessary. It's still aesthetically pleasing. The patina is on here. It looks nice. There's no complaints there, and the transitions around the kashra line up really well. There's no ledges. There's nothing that bites into my fingers. Everything is very, very pleasant. It wiggles just a little bit, but it doesn't really give me a lot of pause that it would cause issues in terms of usage. It does have some slight movement, but not substantial. Moving on to the ska, the handle, the grip. So the first thing to note is that the ito is reasonably tight, and this seems to be a relatively consistent thing with Skyjiro. Most of the things that I have held and played with from them have ito that is on average more tight than other comparably priced swords. So this is no exception. The ito seems reasonably tight. Even over the Minuki, you can move it, and when I say reasonably tight, that means under pressure I can move it. It does move. It's not rock hard, but it doesn't give me any sense that it's going to fail immediately. I've had some swords, like some pieces from Taisuki. There was a review I did a while ago where it was so loose that it gave me the impression as soon as I started using it, it would kind of come undone, and I don't have that impression here. It makes me think that it would sustain some reasonable use prior, until needing to be replaced, which eventually they all do if you use them enough. The Minuki on here are the single feathers as well. They look nice, and I would say I don't know if this is a contemporary or historic Japanese theme. This kind of has a modern look to me, but overall I like the presentation. The Samegawa panel, if I had one complaint, is on the kind of chintzier, smaller nodule size. It doesn't appear to be very high-grade Samegawa, but at $600 something, you really, even at that price, I know it's a lot of money, but it's not in the grand scale of things. Sometimes a good Samegawa panel can cost upwards of $200 by itself. So it's no surprise that it's of a lower grade, given you're getting a completed sword and not just one fancy panel of Samegawa. The shape of the handle is also, I think, quite nice. It has kind of a nice wasted look, an hourglass kind of shape that is pronounced and nice. It's got likely panels of Samegawa, but they don't stand out in a very substantial, crazy way. Overall, the ska is reasonably nice. The diamonds are not perfect. They're not, it's not the best, but compared to other $677, or between, say, $550 to $850, that ballpark range, the handle is a better presentation than I am accustomed to seeing. That pretty much continues to the Fuchi up here, where it has there is a ledge, but it is just on the edge of good, from that, what I mean is I can feel it, but there's no sharp edges, and it doesn't really visually catch my eye. I have to look for it, and I can spot it's there, but it's not substantial enough. So I would still call this quite good. This large medallion here isn't something that I personally like. That's an aesthetic choice. It doesn't bite into my fingers, though. From a usage perspective, I can't see it really bothering me. It's more of, it looks, I think it's the gaudy that my least favorite part of the sword is this moan here. And I love moans, but this stands out as unpleasant and just a little tackier than I would personally like. Again, the subjective thing in terms of performance, nothing about it bites into my hands. I can't clip it. As I move my fingers around it, it doesn't really irritate or interfere with me in any way. The tsuba is tight. It doesn't wiggle under any pressure, nor does the habaki. The tsuba is 2 crossed feathers. And again, thematically, this has just got crossed feathers all over it. And I like that they stuck with it. Now, that seems to be the symbol of the Skyjiro Forge. You see it sometimes on other habaki. The fact that this is the crossed feather katana and it has a crossed feather habaki is, I think, ties things together very, very nicely. Again, to me personally, this is an aesthetic thing. It doesn't really impact or do anything, but if you like this moan, it is bedazzled all over this sword, and I find that to be a pleasant thing. Overall, though, the tsuba is nice. I like that it has kind of a gold rim around it. Skyjiro, I think, does a really good job with their fittings. The cast quality looks nice and consistent, and that has been the case for the most part on their blades. At least they are unique in a way. It's not something I see on every kind of Chinatana out of eBay. And I appreciate that they have kind of their own kind of contemporary look to things. You can almost spot their stylistic choices, at least some of the time. They stand out as a unique style unto themselves, and I appreciate that. The habaki, as I noted, is a brass habaki. It's pretty much the standard, Chinese production katana thing, but it's got crossed feathers on it, so it's cool. Now, the saya. The saya is a bit of a mixed bag, from the standpoint that it looks nice. It's well done. It's got a nice gloss black lacquer finish. It doesn't look like it's cracked or been, this blade hasn't been used substantially, just kind of handled a little bit, but nothing's cracked off. There's no significant damage to it. It's held up well, but when you use it, it binds just a little bit. So you can see here, already it's binding a little bit. So you really have to just nail and almost twist a little bit on the blade to get it to line up properly. Now, when it does, the transitions are nice. It doesn't shake, it doesn't fall out, it doesn't rattle. So from that side of things, it's quite good. But from a practitioner standpoint, if you're doing EI, this would be something that would probably improve over time. Eventually, the blade will probably cut out whatever it's binding on. But it is a point of irritation. However, the lines actually come together quite nicely on from the saya to the fuchi here, and the koiguchi is nice. It's not filled up with resin and all sorts of gunk and goo, and it looks overall quite nice. There's some small attentions to detail here that I'm seeing somewhat consistently in Skyjiro in their assembly, and at the price point, this seems like in the under $800 range, or under $1,000 range, they seem to do just about the best job anyone does on the assembly and the fit and finish. When Skyjiro came to market, and I recall seeing them, there were a lot of people naysaying because they were a little bit more expensive than the average. And to me, if you're a little more nitpicky about things, these small changes, small attentions to detail are stuff that you really can't fix yourself without redoing and spending a lot of money. So is it a perfect sword? Is it the best out of anything? No, but these small little things, tight ito, things that don't catch on your hand, tight thises and that's, transitions that match are tough to do, tough to nail, and tough to do right consistently, and they seem to be doing that in the swords that I've reviewed from them. So tip of my hat to Skyjiro there, and something to note because it seems to at this point be relatively consistent across many of their products. Onto the blade, the pointy stabby part. So this one is a folded blade, and it stands out beautifully. The hara is easy to see. It's a very pleasant looking blade. Now, it says that it has a fancy mirror polish. Overall, it's quite good. I'm not gonna knock that. The thing that I would say is that there are some lines that are a little muddier than they need to be. Right along the Shinogi G here, they just don't they don't look as pristine as they could, but for the money, this is a beautiful, beautiful sword. The flats on the blade are even and clean and nice. It's very smooth. Again, this is something I look for in swords, and I appreciate it. In some cases, handles don't always line up where it'll kind of jut off one way or another. This one appears to be right on the nose. Feeling-wise, it has a nice kind of curvature. It straightens out a little bit here. So if you look at the blade just as it is here, it doesn't curve much, and that may be part of why it binds, is that it has a sloping curve and then kind of goes straight. But anyway, the point is that it is a beautiful looking blade. The hata is easy to see. I don't spot any damage. Now, there are some scuffs and, the typical malarkey that you would expect to see from Saya Rub on a sword of this price. Nothing really stands out to me as substantial damage or issue. And the blade is pretty. The Kasaki, this is one of the best looking Kasakis in this price point that I have seen. Is it perfect? Oh no. But is it good? Well, yeah, it's really quite good looking for the money. They did a really good job. Now, that's the general gist of the blade itself. It doesn't look like it has also a lot of niku. It looks like it's a pretty, cutting geometry, I suppose you would say, for tatami. It's got almost no niku from what I can see. But maybe you see something I don't. In terms of usage, as I said, I'm not going to cut with it, but I did move it around and do a little bit of EI with it. And overall, the Sai was really what caught me. It binds, it feels a little weird, but the blade moves comfortably. The thing that's odd is that it, like I said, it feels heavy in some spots and really light in others. And oftentimes I've had blades where they feel, I don't know, they're just typically consistent. Sometimes they feel great, held straight up, but as soon as you move them, you feel the weight. And in this case, it's in that initial movement that I start feeling it, but midway through the cut, it starts feeling lighter. And then on recovery, it moves around, and I don't have as much trouble. But just straight up in the hand, it actually feels heavier than it does in motion. And that's, I don't know, it's just a weird feeling. Now, speaking of weird feelings, here is the Weapon Dynamics computer. Hopefully it provides you with some sort of information that is helpful. Now, I don't know that it necessarily will be. The tip rotational inertia is not a higher number than anything else. It's not the lowest, it's not the highest, which, I guess when I say it's a balanced-ish blade for, choppy or swingy, it, I suppose, very technical terms there. I suppose that maybe helps illustrate, but I don't know. It's certainly not winning. It's not teetering to one side of lightness or heaviness, at least as far as I can see. And it looks like many other katanas that I've plugged this data into, nothing to me really stands out as unique or interesting. So I don't know how to quantify what I feel in this blade, where it feels heavier here than it does here. It's just a strange feeling. Let's see if I can wrap up this quick chat. Do I think that this blade is worth $677, or if you're fortunate to buy it for less? In a nutshell, yeah. That's the short answer. Yeah, I do think it's worth it. There's a lot to like about it. Now, if you're looking for a blade that is just an indestructible or dedicated tatami cutter or something that you can beat against rocks, I don't think this is the one for you. If you're looking for something that you can do thousands upon thousands of repetitions with, that's the lightest, most comfortable sword to move around, I don't think this is it for you either. But if you're basically looking for a balanced blade, a lot of times people only have one sword. They want it to be able to cut when they want to cut stuff, whether it be tatami or water bottles. At the same time, they might want to do drawing practice, noto. Maybe that's what they primarily do, and they want it to be suitable for that and not destroy their wrists or arms. Then I think this does that. But not only that, it also has this artistic sense to it, this folding pattern that's easy to see and appreciate, whether you're showing it off as part of a collection or to your friends, or if it's just something you like to admire because you're a sword enthusiast, like me, where you ink on canvas or the folding pattern in a blade. They're all appreciated the same. So from that standpoint, I think this does a great job for $677. It seems like a really compelling, nice blade. I put it in the same category as the Hanwei Bushido, the Minotoshi Tessen. The Skyjiro Warrior was very similar, and I'm guessing this one cuts just as effectively as that one does. Now, the thing that would drive me a little bit nuts is the saya binds, and that's a bit of a deterrent for anyone who's doing iaido. Now, I'm assuming, and it's speculative on my part, that it will loosen up as you use the blade more, and you'll probably get used to how to sheathe the blade, and on top of that, it will probably just, the problem will rectify itself to some sense. But that's speculative, and that does drive me nuts. That's a concern, especially if you're doing a lot of iaido, but everything else about it seems nice. There's a lot of attention to detail, little bits of transitions, the theme that's consistent, a unique look, a hana that's pretty clean, flat planes, and there are some things where they missed the mark, absolutely, but at $670, there's companies that charge a lot more that miss a lot more. So for the money, I think this is a very compelling option. Nothing about it strikes me as a ripoff. I think it's a good deal. And overall, I'm actually pretty impressed with it as a sword, especially for the money. So anyway, that's what I have for you. I hope you've enjoyed and found this relatively helpful. Sorry, I didn't get to cut and show you that aspect, but I don't know. It seems like there are other reviews out there where there are people cutting with this sword, so I don't think you're missing much if you want to see it perform. Anyway, that's all I have for you. I hope it's been helpful. As always, cheers and thanks for watching.